Before starting the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button if you are new to my channel. It really motivates me to keep on creating anime recaps for you guys. The story continues, and Cain wakes up in bed. Sylvie then comes into his room, and she apologizes for waking him up late on the day of his academy entrance exams. She then hurries up and gets Cain ready, and she mentions that she will regret it forever if Cain is late because of her. Cain tells her to not worry about it, and he states that he won't be late. Cain then leaves, and he teleports directly at the academy. He thinks that he knew that he would make it in time, and at the academy Cain tells his name to the receptionist, and he gets his exam number. The receptionist gives him a list, and he tells Cain to go to Class A, and Cain notices that no one he knows is in the list, and he wonders where they are. He then goes into the class, and he thinks that maybe Telestia and Silk are in a different classroom. The teacher then comes into the class, and she starts the test. She states that if anyone is found cheating, then they will be ejected from the premises, and she mentions that they have 2 hours for the exam. The exam then begins, and Cain notices that the arithmetic and writing is easy, and the history questions are all the things that any noble would know. Cain then begins writing, and he relaxes after finishing the test. The teacher asks him if he can really afford to relax, and Cain mentions that he is already done. The teacher states that it's only been half an hour, and the scene then cuts to the end of the exam, and the teacher tells the students to leave their answer sheets on the desk, and proceed to the magic ability assessment test. The scene cuts to the magic test, and the teacher tells everyone to use their strongest attack to hit the target. Cain asks her if he can really use his full power, and the teacher states that there is a defensive barrier around the training area, so he can go all out. The test then begins, and we notice that all the other students are really weak when compared to Cain. It is then Cain's turn, and he thinks that he should limit his magic to beginner level, and uses a fire bullet. The attack pierces the walls and the barrier, and it destroys the area beyond it. The teacher wonders what just happened, and Cain states that he just used fire bullet, and the teacher mentions that a beginner level spell can't cause this much damage. They then make sure that no one was hurt in the attack, and the teacher tells them to head to the swordsmanship exam. At the swordsmanship exam, the teacher introduces the applicants to the special guests from the Adventurers Guild, and Cain notices that Claude is also there. He asks Cain what he is doing here, and Cain states that he is here for the entrance exam. Claude then states that he will be his opponent, and Cain tries to refuse, but the teacher doesn't let him, and he ends up fighting Claude. Cain thinks that Claude might be pretty skilled since he is A rank, and he uses boost to attack him. Claude defends, and they then start exchanging blows. Claude thinks that Cain is even stronger than the other examiners, and Cain states that he shouldn't put this much force in an exam. But Claude still keeps on going, and he even uses boost. The teacher then stops them, and he mentions that they shouldn't have a mock battle of this intensity in an exam as it's making the other applicants scared. Claude then tells Cain that they should do this again sometime, and Cain thinks that he would like to avoid it if possible. The teacher then sends Cain home, as his exam is over, and he mentions that he should come back when they announce the results. The scene then changes to Cain arriving at home, and Sylvie asks him how it went. Cain states that he finished it all right, and he thinks that he might pass. Sylvie then states that they should celebrate it with a feast, and Cain tries to refuse, but his stomach starts growling, and Sylvie states that she is going to start the preparations. Afterwards, Cain is in the palace, and the king asks him what's going on. Cain explains that the teacher told him to use his full power, and she mentioned that it would be fine since there was a barrier. He knew that he shouldn't use intermediate or emperor-level magic, so he only used a beginner-level spell, but it still destroyed the barrier. The king then asks Cain if he can really use emperor-level magic, and Cain states that he can, but he doesn't know what will happen to his surroundings once he does. He asks the king if he can try it out somewhere, and the king states that he can't. Cain then apologizes for his mistakes, and the king asks him where Cain took the exams, as both Telestia and Silk weren't able to see him at the exam site. Cain states that he checked in at the south entrance, and he went to the room he was directed to. The king then asks Cain if he knows why the academy has 2 entrances, and Cain states that he does, and he mentions that the north entrance is for the nobles, and the south one is for the commoners. The king then asks Cain again what entrance he used, and Cain realizes that he used the entrance for the commoners. The king mentions that Telestia was furious that she didn't get to see him, and Eric states that the headmaster of the academy even came to see him. The story then goes back in time, and we see Eric's meeting with the headmaster. The headmaster mentions that they had a lot of problems in this year's examination, and he explains that this time a commoner got perfect scores in his exam, and he even destroyed the training area, and fought an A-rank adventurer. Eric then laughs, and he mentions that the name of the student must be Cain. The headmaster wonders how he knows that, and Eric states that Cain really put up a good show this time. He thinks that the Prime Minister would have his hands full trying to pay the repair bill, and the story returns to the present, and the Prime Minister shows him the repair bill. The king then warns Cain again to not overdo things, and he mentions that the results would be announced today, and tells Cain to see them for himself. The scene cuts to Cain checking out the results at the academy, and he notices that he is placed first. Silk then meets Cain, and she mentions that her father told her all about the uproar he caused. She mentions that Telestia isn't here today, but she was really angry cause she didn't get to see him on exam day. She states that Cain should look forward to seeing her in the school's uniform, and she leaves. Cain then notices his sister at the academy, and she mentions that Cain hasn't visited their mansion in a long time. Cain apologizes, and Rain then congratulates him for being at the top of his class, and she mentions that he should prepare for the speech at the entrance ceremony. Cain is surprised to hear about this, and he tries to back out of it, but Rain states that it has already been announced. At Cain's mansion we see that Sylvie is fidgeting about the results, and Cain then comes home, and he tells her that he got first place in the exams. Sylvie states that she had faith that Cain could do this, and she mentions that she will prepare a feast for him. The scene then cuts to the entrance ceremony, and Cain notices that his parents are also there. Cain then meets the princess and Miss Silk, and they think that Cain looks cool in his uniform. Cain states that they look great as well, and they then go to the auditorium. The other guys are jealous to see Cain sit with the princess and Miss Silk, and the girls thinks that Cain is dreamy. The ceremony then begins, and the headmaster summons Cain on the stage for his speech. In his speech Cain introduces himself, and he mentions that this academy was created by the first king to educate everyone equally. He mentions that he plans to make friends with people without any regards to their bloodline, and he hopes that they can all get along. The students then announce that the king will like to say a few words next, and the king congratulates everyone for entering the academy. He mentions that this year there are some irregular students here, and he hopes that the teachers will do their best. Cain wonders why he feels like he is being warned, and his parents feel embarrassed. The scene then cuts to Cain attending his first class, and he sits with Telestia and Silk. The teacher then comes into the classroom, and she introduces herself as Elka von Portley, their homeroom teacher. She tells everyone to choose their courses, and Cain thinks that he is going to choose adventuring. Telestia states that he should choose the nobility course, and Silk states that he could also choose adventuring with it. Cain then decides to choose adventuring, nobility, magic, and magic items, and Telestia states that she will be choosing nobility and internal affairs, so she could one day be able to manage Cain's domain. Silk states that she will choose nobility and commerce, so she could be of help to him in the future. The class then ends, and outside the class Cain notices that some nobles are bullying Parma. They are telling her to drop out of school so they can get in Class A, and Cain stops them, and he states that nobles and commoners should be treated equally here. Cain then notices that it's Habit and his lackeys, and he mentions that nobility means nothing here. He then states that this girl is his friend, and Habit's lackeys mentions that Cain should side with the nobility as he is also a noble. Cain mentions that he only sides with his friends, and Habit states that he will just tell his father to ruin her entire family. The princess and Miss Silk then intervene, and Habit and his lackeys apologize to them. They mention that they should be apologizing to Parma instead, and they hesitantly apologize to her, and they run away. Cain then apologizes for taking so long to save her, and Parma states that it was alright, and she mentions that she is glad to be in the same school as him. The girls then state that Cain seems awfully close to Parma, and they mention that they will need to talk with her, and they ask Cain to sit on his heels while they talk. Cain does so, and he wonders what they are talking about. He wonders if they are setting up an alliance or something, and Cain then hears a voice in his mind. The voice tells him that he seems like an interesting kid, and they should have a chat. Cain wonders who it is, and the voice tells him to come to the library. Cain goes to the library, and he gets teleported to a mansion. The man inside asks Cain if he would like sugar in his coffee, and Cain wonders who he is. The man states that he has been waiting to meet him, and Cain notices that he looks just like the first king. The scene cuts to them having coffee, and Cain drinks the coffee, and he thinks that it's delicious. Thanks for watching part 8, the rest of the parts will be on my channel. Please like and share the video if you enjoyed it, and make sure to hit the subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell to keep getting new anime recap updates.